And say an official good afternoon to everyone joining us today. We've got a good crowd here. Nice to see you all. I am joined by my colleague here at the State Library, Scott Dermott, who oversees our accreditation program and the annual survey that we do every year. I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit more about that. But today's instance of Lunch with the State Library is all about library stats. And so Scott, I will turn it over to you to walk us through some of this. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Sam. I do appreciate it. And I do manage the annual survey, which hopefully you've all had a lot of really good experience with. And we're actually in the process of doing those right now. And I thought I'd use our time today to talk about how we actually use that data that you give us every year. I mean, it's not just, we're not just asking you to fill these forms out to make you do that. We actually use all that data that you give to us. So today I wanted to show you how that's all used. So I'm going to get started here. The annual survey is actually supported by our federal agency, which is the Institute of Museum and Library Services. And so because they are supporting it, they actually require that we have some of their questions in the survey. So we actually have what we call federal questions, and then we also are able to ask our own questions, and we call those state questions. So those are both things that we'll ask, and they're both used in different ways. So I wanted to talk about both of those today. So I'll start out with the federal questions. And I will say I have this PowerPoint, but really today I'm mostly going to be spending online. So I'll just use this to kind of launch us off. So, but just so you know, IMLS does ask us for these questions, and they actually compile several different tools that are all freely available on their website for basically anybody to use. They get used by more than just libraries. There are also researchers out there that use this data. So I think I'll just take you right to the IMLS Gov site, imls.gov. And I'm going to have to quit out of my presentation here. And Sam, I'm never quite sure if I want to switch to a different app, do I need to stop sharing and reshare?
Yes, if you just shared the PowerPoint app, you will need to stop the share and reshare. If you shared your whole screen, you should be go to just pull your browser over the top here.
So what are you seeing right now? I'm sorry, I can't see anything.
I'm seeing the PowerPoint display, the
Okay.
kind of PowerPoint version.
So I'm going to need to stop that and reshare it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There we go. I'm seeing the IMLS Public Library Survey page now.
Okay, good. Okay, so their address is just imls.gov, and I'm going to actually take you through this step by step so you can kind of see. So this is what their homepage looks like, and to get to their, they call what we call the annual survey, everybody else calls the public library survey, and that is normally abbreviated as PLS. So when you ever see PLS, that means annual survey. So I'm going to click on this tab called data, and then we want to call up the data catalog. And that's where they're going to have their various tools. So the first one that I want to look at is the library search and compare tool. So there's basically two different ways that the data is used before I get going here. One way is what we call aggregated, and that's just basically looking at totals for state by state or national. So they've just taken all the data and clumped it together into one number. The other way that they look at data is individually by library, and that is more useful for comparing one library to another. So this library search and compare tool is a way to look at individual libraries. So I'm going to start that up, and just be aware that some of these tools can be a little slow. So hopefully we'll get through all this today. There is a lot of data. There's over 9,000 public libraries. So when we usually load up these tools for the first time, they've got a lot of data to load up. So what this tool basically allows you to do is you can do a couple different things. One is just to look up a specific library. So if you see here, there's this list down here that just shows libraries. They're basically in alphabetical order by state. So we start in Alaska, and as you can see, there's just this big long list of libraries. That can be a little difficult to use because there's a lot here. So what I like to do is use these tools that you see on the left column here, which allow you to kind of focus in on certain things. So I've created this little sample that I'd like to use where we want to look at libraries that have circulation of 1,000 or less. This is annual from Iowa, and then I'll show you a couple of the little categories that you can change. So I'm going to go and change our circulation, and you can either use this bar here, pull it back and forth, or it's easier just to type in a number if you know what you want to do here. So I'm going to set my circulation to 1,000 or less. And then for this, I only want to look at libraries in Iowa, but you could do it nationally. And if you notice, when I did that, our total has become now 454, which is still a pretty big group. So I'm going to go and change our state listing. It defaults to all. I just want to look at Iowa. You have to scroll down to the bottom and click apply. So then that reduced my results to 40. So that's a pretty good group now. So I can now use this little pull down up here to focus in on certain other categories. And it defaults to demographics, which gives us some real basic information. Probably most of it you won't find useful, except there is a service area population, which is actually a number that we generate based on your library's population and some other numbers. But that's their library name, FSCS ID, if you ever need that for something. You can also look at the individual libraries, which I'll show you here in a minute. But in this case, what I want to look at is library programs. So I'm going to click on that category and wait. And so there's a list. Basically, this is data right off the annual survey. They don't necessarily use the same categories that we do, but for the most part, you should be able to figure out which ones are which. But these are things that your libraries have answered on the survey. So I can now see this list of all the libraries in Iowa that filled out a survey and what their programming counts are. Then the other thing I can do with this tool is I can get more information on a specific library. So I can click on the library name, and it's going to take me to a list of data. And so here's basically a variety of data from the survey. Note that this is not everything. And again, this would only be what we call the federal questions. We don't really specify that on the survey, so you don't necessarily know which are state or federal, but you'll only see the federal data on this particular tool. So anything that we ask at the state won't show up here. And some of these have, some little charts and graphs that could be useful. So just, it has its uses. I will say they are a little out of date. The federal results are normally about 2 years behind. So this current tool only covers data from 2018 through 2021. So you won't have the most current on here. But they have so much data to accumulate that it takes usually a couple years to get it posted. So that's this tool. I would suggest that you go in and play around with it a bit. It is very interesting, and it does allow you to look at data from other states too. So you can access basically all the states, and there's also some territories that participate in the survey. So you can see basically every public library in the country if you want to. The next tool I want to show you is something called, on their site, it's called the Public Library Survey. This is basically, it gives you access to basically the raw data from the annual survey. So it lets you look at everything that's asked on the survey at the federal level. And actually the FY20 data right now is probably the most useful for this. And so if you click on that little bar there, it will show you the data files. So you could download a CSV file, which can be read by Microsoft Excel. And you can basically look at the entire survey for all the libraries that took it. And there's some other formats here for some other software. There's also the complete documentation. And then they also have published, in this case, some infographics and some other briefs that you might find helpful. So it could be useful. In this case, there's the couple of COVID related things here that might be interesting to people. So I will show you that in a minute. Those load as PDFs and can be a little time consuming. So I've got all the PDFs kind of already downloaded, and I'll show you those in a sec here. Then the third tool, and I'm very conscious of our time because I know this is a short time period today. I'm going to go back to the data catalog and show you the third tool on the IMLS website, which is called the PLS benchmarking tables. And this is basically aggregate data. So this is combined data from all the states. You won't find any like individual numbers here, but it basically shows you, like it gives us the number of public libraries in the state, service area population, other kinds of population numbers, basically ranked in order. So this is something I always like to point out to people when you look at this list. This is in order by number of public libraries. And if you see, we've got New York, Illinois, Texas, and Iowa. So we do have a lot of independent public libraries in Iowa. We don't have as many outlets as a lot of other states because most libraries in Iowa only have one outlet, which is basically, your main library is counted as an outlet. But we do have we have the fourth most independent libraries. This also then allows you to look at some other categories. So you got to go through the list a little here and just things, it's just basically ranking for a variety of categories. So I do actually use some of this data on a state tool that I'll show you here in a minute. But this is something that might be useful just if you want to, compare Iowa to other states. This is a good tool for that. So I don't think I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint at this point. I think I'm just going to move on to the State Library of Iowa's tools. So we've got our federal data, and now I'm going to show you how to get to the state data. So I am going to go to our website, which is just statelibraryofiowa.gov. And I'll try to have some time at the end of this for questions. So I am trying to get through this pretty quickly. So the first thing I wanted to show you is something that we kind of call the Big Stats book. So if you go to our website, hover over libraries, that's where all of our program information is. And there's going to be the link here called Iowa Library Statistics. we go to that page, I've got some things here, a variety of things here posted on public library data. But the thing I wanted to show you here is called the Iowa Public Library Statistics. That's kind of its official name. I call it the big stats book because it's over 100 pages long. So it is literally a big book with statistics in it. So I'm going to open that up. And that'll take you to a page looks like this. And if you notice, I do have the FY22 data. So this will be more current than what we saw on the IMLS page. We actually have this data going back to 1973, but we only have it going through back to FY18 on the website. And I'll show you here in a minute how to get to that. But I wanted to show you what this looked like. So I'm actually going to stop sharing here and open up our PDF. Can you see that now, Sam?
Yes, yes, I could. I can. Thank you.
Okay. So this is the Iowa Public Library statistics page. This is what this document looks like. Basically, it is a list by, we start, move down to our first group here. It's arranged by categories. So we've got income, expenditures, staffing, programming, circulation, all those different kinds of numbers that we use. And it basically lists every single public library in Iowa that took the survey that year. And it gives the answer that they reported on their survey. It is within the categories, it's arranged by the size code. And then within size code, it's arranged by the city name. And then as you can see, it's got a variety of categories here. We're in the income section. So we've got city income, per capita, county income, those types of things. So you'll see that going through it. If you're looking for specific town, you'll need to go through based on the size. If you're not sure what size they are in, there's a little table up here that lists the towns in alphabetical order, and you can look them up by size. And those have been updated, so that's based on the 2020 census. And then as you go down through this, you'll notice at the end of each size code, if I can get to it, there are a variety of totals, averages, min, max, percentiles, that type of thing for each size category. And then when you get to the very bottom of each section, there are grand totals for the state. So that's where you can find out how much do cities in Iowa pay for public libraries. There's a city income total, and that's what we have. Those are also the numbers that we provide to IMLS, and that shows up at the national level, but they display it a little differently than we have it here. So when people are looking for, for example, if you wanted to look for all the libraries that are near your size code and you wanted to look at what the income was for all those, this is a good place to start because it'll just show you in one nice list. So if I wanted to look at the H size libraries and what their average income was, it'll just show them all for you right here. You don't have to like enter in names or do a bunch of searching and table flipping and whatever else. It's just right there for you. So it's a good place to look for that kind of stuff. This does include both state and federal questions, so we do include those, although this is still, this isn't everything. These are selected data points, because if I put everything in here, it would be 300 pages long. So I'm going to move on. The other thing I was going to show you is if we go back to our website. Well, since I've got the PDFs up here, I'm going to show these to you. This is actually, I went in and downloaded the 1973 version. from the IPO website. That's how you get to the older data for that big stats book. Again, it goes back to 1973. Looks very different. They tend to be shorter just because not as many libraries did the survey in those days. But I'll show you here in a minute how I get to that. And then I have to do a little bit of, there was one other thing here I wanted to show you, and it's not going to let me. Sam, is there a way for me to, oh, there we go. Sorry, the the bar from Zoom is in my way here.
Oh yeah, yep. Nope,
Sorry,
you
it's
found
hard
it.
to, yeah, I got it. So the other thing I wanted to show you real quick is just one of the infographics that we that IMLS did on COVID using survey data. Since I downloaded this as a PDF, so they do these kind of things for a variety of services. So this is one of the things that they'll do with the data, the aggregate data, and in this case, they just show a couple of different things. If you recall, we had a bunch of yes, no COVID questions the last couple of years, and that's what they've done with it. I think the last thing I'm going to show you here is another tool. Well, here, I need to stop sharing. All right, I'm going to go back to our web page. All right, are you seeing
We see
our
the
website?
state library website.
Okay, so the other tool I wanted to show you today is what it's called Web Connect. It's created by the same company that does Web Collect, which we use to collect your annual survey data. And it's another way to look at the data. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. You basically get to that the same way we got to the big stats book, which, as a reminder, we go to libraries, then under resources, and then Iowa Library Statistics. And I'll take you to this page. And there's a link here called Web Connect. So I'm going to just log in here. Note that with Web Connect, you do need to log in, but we provide some generic usernames and passwords for you. So just pick those off here. The right, I'm just going to use IA Stats 2. So I'm going to click here to log in. All right, so this actually allows you to look at different state data if you want. Basically, anybody that uses Bibliostat will show up here. There's also some Canadian and Australian provinces in here. There's some other data. There's some old LJ index data, and there's also some older data from the census, from other surveys. You can look at all that if you want. But today I'm just going to look at the Iowa data. So we have it defaulted to Iowa, and then you can pick what's called a comparison library, which could basically be your library. So in this case, I just picked one off the list. I'm going to use Fenton. So I'm going to click next here. And what this allows us to do is to create a list of libraries to show us specific data points. So it could help us. For example, what I'm going to do today is I want to look at all the libraries that are near to Fenton's as far as city income is concerned, and also then look at the circulation and programming counts. And that's kind of what this will let you do. So I'm going to look at Fenton. I want to select what we call select by peer, and that allows me to select similar libraries. And to do that, I pick data elements from the survey. That's all nicely categorized here for me. So I'm going to pick the first one is going to be income. So I want to base this on city income. And I am just scratching the surface of the software. I'll actually be providing some training on this in the future. I don't have a date or anything yet, but my intention is to do some training for you. Today, I just want to show you what this looks like so you can see what you can do with it. So I'm just going to do some minimum maximum that's kind of close to what Fenton has, which was 1600. And then I also want to compare based on circulation. So I'm going to go down to the circ list here. And I want to use total. So circulation total. And we see that Fenton was about 4456. So I'm just going to use, I don't want a really big list, so I'm going to try to keep the numbers pretty close. So I'm going to do that and then click next. Looks like we got 2 in the list. If that list is too small, I can refine it by changing the numbers down here a little bit. Maybe I'll just raise, just to maybe add some more libraries, I can raise the income a little. Okay, so we basically have two libraries that are pretty similar in those 2 numbers. So I'm just going to go next. And then those are my 2 libraries. So I'm going to do next again. And I want to do programs. I want to show programs. So I'm going to click on that. Right, wrong one. And there should be a total all the way at the bottom. Keep in mind, you only ever want to compare like 3 data elements. So I've got these 2 here, and I'm going to do year, and that's basically all the software will support. And I'll give it a title and hit next. And this will just show then that data I asked for. So it showed the number of programs in those 2 libraries. So just a real short overview on what you can do with this, but you could basically take all the data from the survey and manipulate it here. You can also, if you want, you can create little tables and graphs with the data, but I'm actually out of time, so I don't think I'll show that to you today. So we did run out of time, but I'm willing to hang out here for a little bit, Sam, if people had questions.
I did not see a lot of questions come through. A couple I just addressed in chat. I think the old PDFs, those were on the Iowa Publications Online page, right? The
Yes.
search for library statistics and start hunting through, or what would you search for on that?
Yeah, anything less than, it was, yeah, I didn't actually take people out to IPO because I was running out of time. But if you go to IPO, you just want to search for Iowa Public Library statistics.
There we go.
And that'll bring you to those. And then they will just come up as a PDF. I didn't want to bring you there because frankly, it was really slow today.
Yes, yeah, I did pull up the IPO website and put that in the chat. So I will allow folks to drop off. Before you go, let me say a big thank you for spending part of your lunch hour with us. I always am hopeful that you can get out and enjoy a quick walk here now that I took up a bit of your lunch hour. If your schedule allows, go get a breath of fresh air. In October, Scott is going to be back with us. I just put the link to Iowa Learns in the chat. I have no idea if it's going to work. Iowa Learns has been having a day, but stay tuned. if you're not able to register for the October one today, definitely check back later because Scott will be back with us talking about library accreditation and why accreditation matters for your library. So come back and join us for that. Scott and I can hang out here a couple more minutes if people have questions. Otherwise, thanks for joining us today, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much.
I was thinking how timely it was. I don't know if you saw the Library Talk post. I think just this morning. Can someone help me compare my salary across similar size libraries? And that's a perfect question for the Big Stats collection. Is that right?
Well, actually, no.
No.
We don't collect salary data. Well, we do have hourly rates. We ask
Yes,
for hourly, but we don't ask for individual staff salary
I
on
see.
the
Yes,
survey.
but if this was a director asking for other directors.
Then, yeah, we could use it. You can use the Connect tool to find, because that's a state data element. So you use
Hmm.
the Connect tool and we should be able to get that.
Cool. Well, I'm not seeing a lot of other questions come through here. One person asking about filling out the annual survey, and I'm trying to type the word recommend. Um, but just get in touch with you directly with issues with the annual survey.
Oh, definitely. Yes. We do have on our survey webpage, there is some information on how the software works. We do have some videos on the
Mhm.
software. We don't talk about answering individual questions, but we give you, I think, a pretty good overview on software and edit checks and that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Someone asks for kind of here's the exact comment. I see how using comparative data might be helpful in raises or funding from the city. Other applications. I mean, this kind of goes almost to anything you measure in your library. You can use that stat to help leverage for change. So this could be the size of your library, the size of your collection, programs that you do. I mean, that could go a lot of directions. Is that right?
I think, yeah, you covered it.
I think it's a very powerful tool. I mean, you can also couple that with something like census data. Libraries similar to us do this. When we compare that with our census data, we think this could be effective as well. Yeah, definitely something to leverage for grants, Krista, for sure. If you have data points you can use, if you've got a grant application, we're in the works. So
You
great.
could,
Well, thank you, everyone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think you can also use a lot of that data to compare how busy your library is to other libraries. Um, so even though, maybe your, pay or whatever is adequate for, compared to other libraries, maybe your library is busier than others or not as busy. I think that's helpful to look at sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Well, thank you, Scott, very much. I think people know where to find you, and we'll see you in October for the library accreditation overview. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.